Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of creating your first meeting room. We went through the wizard, created our meeting room. Now we're actually going to get inside and set it up. So here's the URL that we set for our room. We're going to go ahead and click on that, and then you guys are going to see basically something like this. So when you first jump into a Connect meeting room, Connect's going to give you 3 default layouts. And that's what you see here up in the top right hand corner with these 3 squares. We have sharing, we have discussion, and we have collaboration. So Connect's going to give you some preset templates in terms of layouts that you guys can just jump in there and use. If you just want to get in here and have a small collaborative session where you're really just screen sharing real quick with some teammates or some colleagues, this is going to be a great opportunity to take advantage of those. If you are going to be using this room for hours on end and you really want to take the time to go ahead and customize it, well, we can go ahead and we can create our own brand new layout down here in the bottom right hand corner. And if you guys are brand new to Connect, I highly recommend you guys coming in here and doing this. So I'm going to create a brand new layout, and I'm going to call it Basic Pods. And we're just going to run through some of your basic pods that you can utilize in your Connect room to come through here and get this initial setup going and done. So the first thing that I like to do is actually add a background image. So I'm going to come to Meeting. We're going to go to Preferences, and if you guys just go out to Google Images and just type in HD background, you're going to be able to find a bunch that you can go ahead and save down to your computer and that we can then load into our Connect room. So I've already went ahead and done so. So I'm going to click on this backgrounds folder on my desktop, and as you can see, I've got a bunch here that I can choose from. So if you just grab any of these, I'm just going to go ahead and click on one of these here. You just, again, by typing in HD backgrounds, Google's going to pretty much find, high definition. Usually the standard HD pixel range is going to be 1980 by 1020 or whatever the pixel count is. But you'll be able to find some that are, relatively large in terms of image size, and that way it's going to look good when it's inside your room. If you find an image that's too small, it's going to look pixelated, and the quality is just not going to be there. So you'll select your image. You'll see it populate that little box there, and we're ready to go ahead and get started here. So I'm going to click Done. Now immediately the room is far more appealing to look at. So now let's go ahead and start to build up our room. I'm going to come to the Pods menu. I'm going to go ahead and click on the attendees list because I want to have an attendees list in my room. And I'm just going to grab the corners and just kind of shrink things down a little bit. I'm going to bring in a chat pod as well, so I can do some non-verbal communication between myself and my teammates. We'll bring in a share pod. Now you'll notice in the previous layouts that Connect gives you, the pods are all really tightly touching each other. You don't really see much of that background image peering through, so that's why I like to come through here. I'll create a new layout, and I kind of like to have the pods floating out in the space so that I'm not having to deal with that restriction and sort of that tenseness that's going on in the overall design of the layout. So whatever fits your personal preference, you guys can do whatever you want. It's kind of the beauty of Connect, is the level of customization that you guys have at your fingertips. I'm going to bring in the notes pod. And this is essentially, just a Word document in our room, and we can use that to kind of jot down the agenda, maybe, sort of cover any key points that we might run into during our collaborative session. So with knowledge on how to work these 4 pods, like I said, you guys can become pretty well-versed Connect users, and especially when it comes to the use case of just having a basic collaborative web meeting, you'll be good to go. So you have your attendees list. Your attendees list is comprised of 3 different roles. Hosts, presenters, and participants. Hosts are top dog in the room. They can do anything. They can change layouts, as I'm doing right now. They can add new pods to the room, as I did earlier, reformat, resize them. Presenters are a step underneath of them. And so really, they can't move anything anymore. They can't customize the room in any way, fashion. It's really just sort of, you're there to present and use what you're given. So you can kind of use the share pod here, jump into a screen share, upload your own documents, and then participants have even less rights. So you're sort of at the limitations of the host in terms of whatever power they're going to give you access to, whether it's polling questions, a chat pod, the emoticons up top here, a Q&A pod, things of that nature. Now the nice thing about Connect is you can have as many people in each role as you want. You can have, technically you could have yourself and 99 other hosts in the room with you up in the host role. Now obviously you probably wouldn't want to do that, but just, again, trying to make my point here, you guys can have as many hosts and as many presenters in your room. Now, if you're the license holder, it's not as though you can upgrade someone else to a host by clicking and dragging their name and then you leave the room. You have to be present because you hold the license. So you need to be present for that session to run. But again, if you have 6 or 7 guest speakers, a panel of guest speakers, they all need to be able to present on that webinar, on that meeting. You can make all 6 or 7 of them presenters simultaneously, and that way they can go in there and they can do whatever they need to do, and it's much more fluid experience for that presentation. Down below is a chat pod. Pretty self-explanatory, instant text messaging. You guys can throw in live URLs. What is said and everyone can see it, so just keep that in mind for your sessions. You can always clear the chat, email yourselves a copy of the chat history, and you have some basic text formatting options as well. Right hand side, this is your notes pod. Now, this isn't really a place where anyone can write notes. This is more of the sort of whiteboard at the top of your conference room. So if you guys wanted to write the agenda, hey, we're covering some minutes, we're covering some action items, and then we've got some PowerPoint presentations that some people are going to cover from homework. Maybe we're going to throw in the dial-in information. So that'll make things easier for folks that want to dial in case their VoIP quality is suffering. And maybe I'll make that red so it's really nice and easy for other folks to see. And then, of course, smack in the middle is our share pod. Now, this is probably the most important pod of the platform just because of the level of functionality that it offers you. The other pods are fairly easy because they all kind of cater to one sort of function inside the Connect room. So, your attendees list, you see who's in there. You got your different roles, the chat pod, nonverbal communication, and your notes pod is essentially your agenda items, any sort of pertinent information you want the audience to know you're going to throw in there. Now the share pod allows for 3 different things to happen. You can screen share, which is where you are essentially showing everyone what you're doing on your computer screen in real time. So I can click share my screen. So Connect's going to ask me which one of my computer monitors I want to share with my audience. I have the ability to choose either my first monitor or my second monitor. And if I don't want to share my entire desktop, I certainly don't need to. I can just go ahead and select share an application, maybe just an individual window if I want to do so as well. So I'll just go ahead, select one, and I'll be able to jump into a screen share. Your second functionality here is being able to upload your documents into the room. So from a network bandwidth perspective, screen sharing is very taxing on your internet resources, right? It's constant upload and download of data being used, again, to essentially show people in real time what you're doing. So when you can actually just simply upload a document into your room, you're taking out a lot of that network bandwidth work. So essentially we can just browse out to our computer and we can find a file here. And if I wanted to, I can go ahead and select a PowerPoint deck and click open. And the first time you upload content, it's going to take a couple extra seconds. But once this upload is done, that content's going to be up in your Connect library, up in the cloud, and you'll be able to pull from it and display it instantly at any other point in time. So some cool functionality there. Again, this is not just PowerPoint, so you guys can bring in PDFs, movies, we can bring in MP4 or FLV videos. You guys can bring in custom pods off the Custom Pods website. If you guys just Google Adobe Connect Custom Pods, you'll see that appear as one of the first line items that you can click on. And you can bring in some new cool functionality into your Connect rooms. So there's my PowerPoint deck. I got the arrow keys to go through here in the bottom left-hand corner. So again, some cool functionality there in terms of what you guys can do for uploading documents. Now, last thing we can do is share a whiteboard. So now we've got a bright, beautiful white canvas to work with. In here, we could do some stuff. We could brainstorm some ideas. Maybe we're syncing up with some colleagues out of the office, and we're going to go ahead and brainstorm some ideas for some new projects that are coming up. Maybe list out some of those ideas. Maybe we'll draw some arrows to house those ideas, inside those various boxes. So tons of ways you can kind of use these freeform tools, again, to switch it up, make it a little bit more creative, a little bit more dynamic, and that is going to be the third and final thing that you guys can do in your SharePods. So again, SharePod, screen sharing, uploading of documents, or we can go ahead and collaborate over a whiteboard. Again, so with knowledge on how to work these 4 pods, you guys will have everything you need to be everything you need in order to be successful in hosting and conducting your live basic meetings. If you guys found this video helpful, informative, smash that like button, subscribe to us, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.